Hello, it's Friday, July 26, 2024, and I am actually working on the bus in a roundabout kind of way. This is a spare electric motor that I have for the OEM chassis air conditioner, the one that's above the driver's and slightly behind the driver's head. The reason why I got a spare is because when we built the bus, we removed the rearmost OEM air conditioner to make way for a mini split. So the project that I'm going to start today, and probably not finish today, is I want to modify this motor to accept ball bearings instead of using the bushings that it has. And I think I can pull it off because this is my spare. I'm feeling bold, and really the only part that I need to modify is the end bells. This aluminum piece on this side and that side, and everything else should be the same. And it looks like there's space for a ball bearing in there. At a minimum, I want to put a ball bearing on this side because this is the side that supports the squirrel cage fan. And if I remember correctly, not too many months ago, when this motor was making a racket on the bus and I took it apart, it was this end that was kind of wasted in there. So we're going to take this thing apart and play. All right, so let's just set it in the vise here. And that's kind of like how I do these things, so it won't roll away. And look at that, one-handed. I thought it was, yeah, okay. Thought it was going to do that. Okay. Now, these things have a really strong magnet in them. Let's see. How do I want to do this one-handedly? Okay, I took this to the bench grinder and polished it off with a wire wheel. And I witness marked these pieces to line up with this plug. So this should come right apart. Hold on. Look at all these lizard eggs in here. Ain't that some shit? There's a couple of unhatched ones. We're gonna have to go put those back outside. Alright. Those lizards are something else, huh? I think I just killed one. Alright. Alrighty, we saved our lizard eggs in a nice place outside, and the one I thought I crushed and killed was an empty shell, so that was good news. I'm a little bit disappointed to see this. This bearing fits on here, but it's a little loose. And I'm going to measure that. Let's see what we're looking at. Darn it. I thought that was going to be an exact fit. I mean, I guess I could Loctite it on there, but you know, we want that to be running true. And if I Loctite it on there, let me get my approximator tool. All right, so the bearing ID is 313 thousandths, and the shaft diameter is 310. So we're 3 thousandths of an inch I think I should see if I can find some bearings that are 310. I don't think that's going to be possible. If, you know what, maybe I need to go to the next size larger bearing and put a bushing on the shaft where the bearing rides. That's probably gonna be the answer. All right, we got some homework to do. I probably won't be getting back to this for a while, because right now I've only got a little bit of slack time between projects at the house. This thing is permanently staked on there. See that little pin right there? That's aluminum color. There's two of them. There's one here, one there. And it looks like they hit him with a punch to smash him open to hold this on the here, which, if I want to modify this piece, I'm gonna have to, because this is Bakelite or plastic, I'm gonna have to carefully drill these out and replace them with screws. And it looks like there's room for screws, but I gotta make sure that I don't create a short circuit. So we got plastic right there. That one's good. This one's got plastic here, but that little wire's kind of close. I can do it. But let's leave this one last. The main thing we wanted was to get the ball bearing on the opposite side of the motor. This side here. All right, let's go shopping for some bearings and see what's available. Okay, we're chucked up in the lathe here, and we're within a thousandths chewed up. So check out what I learned here a minute ago. Both of these end bells are the same. This one's got those little studly looking things right there, one there and one there. So this one can substitute for the one on the brushes side. And it's, you know, so that's really great, man. Well, I have it in the lathe so I can cut these little stake marks off and get all this stuff out and see what the bore of that thing looks like. I found some bearings, one of the 3/8 diameter ID that I think will work right in here. All right, so I'm glad I stopped for a minute here. I took some measurements from this flat surface, put a straight edge across and measured to the surface here, and it's 111 thousandths recessed back in there. So that's an important number. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut these little ridges out. All right, this casting is kind of crooked here. I'm trying to center this thing up. I started it out having it centered up on the old bearing, but the bore here is way out of whack. I'll show you that in a minute. But this is the part out here that keys up on the ID of the stator housing, I guess you'd call it. So we are, that's at reading at 15, 13, 13, 15. There's a little bump right there, which I think I could take off. 15. And there's a low one right here at number 4. The high, it's egg shaped is what it is. So that we got. All right. So let me back this off and run it, and I'll show you what I mean about egg shaped. If I can get my camera in there. That doesn't really show very well, does it? That's as straight as I'm going to get that. I'm going to take a light skim cut on this here to knock off that little high spot on the outside. And now we're going to, next thing we're going to do is bore the inside. Okay, so I skimmed that a little bit. That's where the screw goes through on this side. And then it's the same on this side. So it's kind of a high spot at this screw and a high spot at the other screw. Now wait a minute. Yeah, there's the one screw there. Yeah, a little bit anyway. And on the back side of the flange there, you see where I scraped up on there? And at the other screw I scraped a little bit. So I just did that to kind of clean it up a little bit. I don't want to have any fitment issues with the housing. Now I can put a skim cut on the inside and be confident that I'm truing up to the housing. Okay, this is going to be interesting. The outside diameter of that little nose down up in there is equal to the inside diameter where those spring tabs are. So what that means is the area I've got to work with is not out here, it's up in there. So if I can get a good clean cut on this, we can sleeve that to match our bearing, whatever that is. Now if I go deep enough here, the back of this thing will just pop out. So let me check how much clearance I have there, because this might not be possible at all. I could send this out and get a bunch of weld put on the outside of it back here to give me some meat, and then I can bore this out as much as I want. But that would be time consuming and costly. Let's see what we can squeeze out of what we have here. All right, I did some interesting measuring methods 2 different ways, and right now I've got 241 thousandths of an inch from the back surface back there to that 111 thousandths point where the bearing needs to end. And 240 thousandths is not enough for the bearing, so we do have to go back. Now I've got about 60 thousandths room, so I can put a bearing in there around 300 thousandths. Let's see what this skate bearing measures. 275. That's all right. I think that's going to work. We're not going to use this bearing, but the next size larger I found, I think it was less than 300 thousandths on the width. Let me double check that. All right, so there's a bearing the same width as these roller skate bearings, 0.276. That's 7 millimeters. The bearing I found is 10 millimeters on the ID, 24 millimeters on the OD, and 24 is 9:45. Let's see where we are over here. All right, that gives us plenty of room for a bushing, and the thickness is right. So I can actually bore this out now with confidence. To the depth and diameter that'll provide me with the depth is the tricky part. We need to make sure we get the depth right so that the armature is located in its proper position. So I've got space, it'll work. Let me just cipher that math out on how deep we can go here. I'm gonna go ahead and bore this out till it's clean, because I just did a skim. I didn't completely clean the surface there. So we'll just pull that out to a clean diameter, and then we're gonna go in to the proper depth for a .276 wide bearing. Okay, I'm figuring this out as I go along, and I'm just taking you for the ride here. So I've touched off right there and set my x-axis to 0. We're going to come in here and we're going to move to 111. Oopsie. Okay. And now we're going to 0. So that is where the edge of the bearing needs to be. Now we're going to go in until we touch right there. And we're at 243 thousandths. And we're looking for 276. So let's do some math. I'm not going to use my brain for that. I'm going to get my calculator out, and then I'll know how much deeper I have to cut that bore. Okay, did the math. I got to go in 33 thousandths, and I do have that much because I had 120 something thousandths of meat there, so that's perfect. I'm still touching, and I'm 0 to my x-axis, so I know I got to go in 33 thousandths. Perfect. Okay, we're done with this. The bore, anyway. We've got 100 thousandths of material from the back surface to here. So, you know, the strength of our part is not compromised significantly anyway. We've got our depth within 1/1000th of an inch. Considering we're going to have a bearing that's 7 millimeters wide, which is the same as this roller skate. So that'll put us right to there, and that gives me 111 thousandths from the surface of this bearing to right there. So all I gotta do is make myself a sleeve that'll press fit into this bore, and I cleaned up this flange here. So I'm gonna try to make the sleeve register like a bushing on this area and that area, and be the full depth of the bearing that way, because the bearing is a little bit wider than the surface to that lip right there. All right, I like it. Here's a comparison of the one I just modified, and this is the one that had the brush holder attached. This, and I just drilled these two little nipples so I could pry this off without breaking it. So this will go onto that one now. Let me double check that it fits. It's pretty much gotta. There it is. So the next modification is going to be, I'm going to use screws, and I don't think I'm going to stake those things. I feel much more comfortable using a screw with that. And I need to mark this one for the orientation of this. I don't know if it'll go in backwards. I should try that. But I marked the positive and negative on this before I disassembled it. Yeah, let me see if I can even install it backwards. Yes, it is possible to put the brush holder on 180 degrees out, and that's critical because these are keyed. Yeah, where's my yeah, see right there? These only go in one way, so I got to make sure my brushes are installed in the proper polarity, or I think it'll run backwards. Okay, piece of cake. I scratched a little plus symbol right there on that little boss, and that's how she goes, just like that. Bada bing.